Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning to all of our listeners here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Welcome to another edition of Front and Center, where we put very significant issues affecting our country, the Philippines, as our program title says, Front and Center. On behalf of our colleague Jerome Toledo, I am your host for today, Steph Vicente, joining you all for a 30-minute worth of talk discussing important matters with our government officials, people from the private sector, or even members of the academe. As seen through our video live streaming, you may watch and listen to Front and Center through our Facebook page. Just search Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Replays can be watched or listened to through our YouTube channel, also called Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Meanwhile, we also have an audio live streaming thanks to the Evox PBS Receiver app. You may download the said app via Google Play Store if you are using an Android phone, or via App Store if you are using an iPhone. We are nearing the end of July, which means we are also nearing the end of the 2025 National Disaster Resilience Month. National Disaster Resilience Month, observed every July, is crucial in promoting a culture of preparedness and resilience in the face of natural disasters here in the Philippines. This occasion emphasizes the importance of proactive measures like risk reduction, community engagement, and individual preparedness to minimize the impact of disasters. According to an article from the Philippine Information Agency, or PIA, the roots of this observance stretch back even further to a catastrophic event that shook the nation to its core. On July 16, 1990, a massive earthquake struck Luzon, the country's largest and most populous island. The tremors, measuring 7.8 on the Richter scale, devastated cities and towns across the region. Buildings crumpled, roads split open, and thousands of lives were forever changed in a matter of moments. In the wake of this tragedy, the Philippine government recognized the need for a more focused approach to disaster preparedness. And in 1999, Executive Order 137 established July as National Disaster Consciousness Month, an annual reminder of the dangers posed by both natural and human-induced hazards. As we all know, the Philippines faces a unique set of challenges when it comes to natural disasters. Straddling the Pacific Ring of Fire and situated squarely in the path of seasonal typhoons, the country experiences an average of 20 tropical cyclones each year, along with a constant threat of volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and tsunamis. Recognizing the need for a more proactive approach, Executive Order 29 was signed in 2017, transforming the July observance into National Disaster Resilience Month. In the past week, the country has faced Bagyong Krising, Dante, and Emong, as well as the southwest monsoon, also known as Habagat, prompting class suspensions and suspensions in government work. In our mindset, when there are tropical cyclones and typhoons, for sure there would be flooding. Just to share in our program, I am currently living in Malolos, Bulacan, and we also have a fair share of this. Actually, the flooding towards the terminal where I am taking a minibus to go for work here in Quezon City just subsided last Monday. While this kind of flooding might be unusual to some, others kind of get used to this because of this frequently happening when there are typhoons. Speaking of last Monday, flooding was put into the spotlight by Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. during his fourth State of the Nation address or SONA as he mentioned what he observed on flood control projects. And just yesterday, during the post-SONA discussions, Philippine Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG Secretary John Vic Remulla emphasized the need for a unified and systematic waste management system among local government units or LGUs to address persistent flooding worsened by climate change. Now, in relation to the flooding we frequently experience, especially here in the metro, we have encountered a study entitled Street Floods in Metro Manila and Possible Solutions. We are now joined by Project NOAA Executive Director Dr. Mahar Lagmay, who is also one of the proponents of the said research. Dr. Lagmay, welcome to the program. This is Steph Vicente of Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Hello, good morning, Steph. Thank you for inviting us.
Dr. Lagmay, thank you again for joining us here in Front and Center. Before we go to our discussions, some of our viewers or listeners might be curious first on Project NOAA, which is considered a crucial initiative in the country focused on disaster risk reduction and management. What exactly is Project NOAA and how does this exactly work?
Okay, Project NOAA was launched in 2012 in response to the problems that have beset us since time immemorial. Almost yearly, we had typhoons battering the Philippines. We had habagat rains battering the Philippines with lots of rain and big floods. And by 2011, the government thought that it's time to make a responsive program for disaster risk reduction. Prior to this time, we had about 1,000 to 1,250 deaths per year on average. And after 2 years of the implementation or launch of Project NOAA, that number has decreased significantly to about 250 deaths per year on average. That's about 1,000 deaths per year that have been, that have disappeared. Um, of course, it's not solely Project NOAA that did that. It's a concerted effort. There were a lot of policies, namely the DRRM law, the Climate Change Act, and so on. What I can pinpoint exactly is the time in 2014 when we instituted the pre-disaster risk assessment, wherein hazard warnings or early warnings were given to people, and they were more specific. They were hazard specific, area focused, and time bound. Now, the role of Project NOAA was to gather all of international best practices, frontier science, and the most advanced technologies to be put in the forefront of our battle against hazard impacts, because it has been eating up a lot of our GDP. Our economic growth has been pulled down, and development has been harmed by all of these impacts of hazards. Now, it was very important that we become smarter. We use the most advanced technologies and not just do research on them, but put them into actual operation. And this is what we call as operational research. So while doing the research, you're linked with all of the government agencies. You're involved in the operations of NDRRMC. You not only learn at the same time, you try to find all of the mistakes in order not to repeat them so that we lessen the deaths. We apply all of those technologies, the science behind all of the understanding of hazards phenomena, so that you can address them properly. And I think there's a lot of contributions in terms of the use of high resolution mapping so that we can see the problems at barangay level. We have used sensors that give us real-time information, satellite data that also gives us real-time information and a synoptic view of what has happened or what can be problems in the future. This kind of effort was, I think, very important or crucial, vital in the change or in the manner by which we handled disaster risk reduction. That's in brief what Project NOAA is all about.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Lagmay. And now we're jumping to the actual research, which I personally saw through your social media. You have this study called, as I mentioned earlier, Street Floods in Metro Manila and Possible Solutions. So maybe we could dissect each part of this research. First of all, how did you conceptualize this study, and how did you conduct this?
With the new opportunity of uh, being able to see the flood hazards in high resolution, barangay level, street level, we were able to identify some problems that used to be not seen. They were not seen before because we did not have those technologies. So basically, that was the motivation. When we found that opportunity, we tried to investigate it further and try to disseminate the results of our investigation. Of course, our flood problem here in Metro Manila and of course in the rest of the Philippines, they're quite complex. There are many reasons why we have floods in Metro Manila. For example, during storm surges or ocean swell, or when the sea swells, flooding happens along the coast of Manila Bay. It floods Rojas Boulevard up to Taft Avenue during these events, during these instances. There's also sea level rise. When the seawater level increases, coastal areas get flooded. Of course, there's also subsidence when the ground sinks. And if the ground sinks in the coastal area, naturally the water would invade land and submerge and flood the coastal communities. Those are some of the reasons why we have floods. But the more common one, that those are associated with typhoons and habagat during the habagat season, when the southwest monsoon is enhanced by typhoons that pass north of Luzon. It brings a lot of rain, and rain is the primary cause of flooding that we see in social media. During Habagat, for example, there was a lot of pictures of floods. During Ondoy, during Habagat 2012, during Habagat 2013, 2014, Habagat 2018, Ulysses 2020, Habagat 2024, last year, we had Marikina River swelling at phenomenal levels, going higher at phenomenal levels in terms of water level as measured in Santo Niño. Now, these are the big floods, what we call as the floods that kill. But also during thunderstorms, a brief moment, like for example, up to as much as 30. So it's not really a moment, but anyway, 30 minutes to 45 minutes of intense rainfall during a thunderstorm. It can flood streets. And MMDA has already put up a list of 49 flood-prone areas. When we checked the flood maps of NOAA, which were street level, they were very high resolution. All of the 49 MMDA flood-prone areas were in sites that corresponded to the intersection of streets and creeks. In Tagalog, they're called sapa. They're normally dry during summer or with a little bit of water flowing during summer, but during extreme rains, like during thunderstorms or habagat or typhoons, these creeks nonetheless swell. And there are so many creeks, esteros, streams lined up all over Metro Manila. It comprises the drainage network of streams and channels, pathways for water to flow to be able to discharge into the main rivers of Metro Manila, like Marikina River, San Juan River, and Pasig River. And these rivers are all over, and the streets are also all over these creeks and streams. Naturally, if water flows and they intersect with a street, they would try to cross the street because water is flowing and there's a barrier, a street that we have paved over the ground. Uh, during summer and when there's not much rain, just the water just flows underneath the creek. But because we did not design it well, the culverts the, the culverts are not enough to accommodate heavy rain or large amounts of water. The water would try to cross the street. Instead of going below the street, it goes above because there's excess water. There's a lot of cases like that all over Metro Manila. Sometimes because in areas where it is relatively flat, instead of having a lot of creeks that trying to discharge the flowing water out into Manila Bay, it's actually the street that becomes the waterways already. Before we put up all of these streets, there was just soil, not concrete, and water tried to absorb it and get it to seep into the ground. Now, because of the cement, the water just would try to flow on top of the street or the concrete pavement, and those are the floods that we see. So the street floods normally in higher ground like in Quezon City, in San Juan, in Mandaluyong, the intersections of streets and creeks are the areas where we experience street floods, and that causes traffic. And according to JICA, we lose more than 2.6 billion a year, a day. Sorry, a day from such events. These are street floods are what I call, or in our opinion, as nuisance floods. And we can do something about it. We just have to design the road properly to respect the swelling creek or swelling estero or street.
So, Dr. Lagmay, this just means that we cannot only blame the garbage there, because most people would blame that the improper garbage management when it comes to flooding. Is it right?
Yes, that's true. Although these are aggravating factors that we cannot ignore. If you throw garbage wantonly, then it gets stuck in the drainage channel underneath the road. We don't like that because we want the water to be able to pass and cross the road, not just crossing the road below and above. We want to restrict it below. So if you clog the drainage below, that limits the capacity of that stream. And what happens is that it will try to get to find another path, and that path may be on top of the road. We don't like that. There are other aggravating factors such as climate change. Those that happen very rarely, once in our lifetime, now becomes maybe how many times? 5 to 10 times, five times now, or maybe 10 times in our lifetime. So those events that were rare, used to be rare and infrequent. They were rare and large. Now happen very, very often. These are anthropogenic factors, man-made, and we want to avoid them. Now, if we can design and we can limit the effects of climate change, be smart about it, then we might be able to control those street flood occurrences.
As already mentioned in the title of the study itself, street floods in Metro Manila and possible solutions. Aside from what you mentioned about the design of roads and, of course, the proper garbage management, what are the other possible solutions that will possibly get rid of street floods here in the metro?
Yes. Uh, okay. Our design of drainage systems, like culverts, they are only made to withstand small and moderate types of floods, because that is the design. Because if you design something that will accommodate large floods, then what happens is that it's either going to be too costly or unaesthetic. Now, now that climate change is here and we're experiencing more rare occurrences with big floods, then it's time to rethink of our strategy. We know that it's costing us 2.6 billion a year from street traffic. Maybe it's time to invest in drainage underneath roads that consider the swelling of streams and creeks. So instead of designing a culvert there that can only accommodate a small to moderate flood, then they should design it to accommodate a much bigger flood. In technical terms, these are the 100-year return floods. But the standard is we're building only for 10-year return floods, which are the small and moderate ones. So that is the solution that we are trying to propose. We have identified those places already, and it's time to take action.
So we have to have long term goals when it comes to flood management, uh, and when it comes to having strategies on the possible solutions. What could be the roles of key stakeholders in making this possible? What would be the roles of the government, the private sector, and the academe for this?
Well, the academe can provide the science, the research that pinpoints those places that have problems. We'll only find the proper solution if we can understand the problem. Did I phrase that correctly? We can
Yes.
only find a solution if we understand well the problem. The academe can provide that. The engineers can do the solution. The policymakers and the LGUs can probably legislate or write resolutions that support action, and the LGUs can fund it using their, I don't know what fund they will use, maybe the DRRM fund, to create the solutions, to make the infrastructure. The academe, the stakeholders can also provide historical background of the problems in the area with respect to floods. They can pinpoint areas where perhaps solutions can be better made. They can engage. They can take note if there's some wrongdoing in what is being constructed. They can actually solve the transparency issue by clamoring if there's something wrong. So that participation is very important for governance. What else? The academe can again go back and find out more. If there are other problems, maybe they can identify it. Not that I'm saying that others can't identify it, but because the academe has a lot of resources, we have experts from different fields, not just from one expertise or specialty. The academe is interdisciplinary. So there are many facets of the problem which can be addressed or investigated by the academics.
Now, Dr. Lagmay, I think the next question might be a little bit futuristic, but how can you see the future of Metro Manila and nearby areas when it comes to flood management now that you have a study like street floods in Metro Manila and possible solutions?
Long term, well, you're asking me long term, what would
Yes,
be the
yes.
proper solution?
Yes.
Long term, it's easy to move away people or to transfer people temporarily, but it's difficult to transfer what is in place in terms of infrastructure, houses, buildings, streets. If there are parks that are still there, maybe it's time to think about maintaining them as parks so that they can act as detention basins. For other non-structural means, maybe planting trees in the mountains so that the mountains can absorb more water to lessen the run out of water that flows into the rivers that make them flood. That make them flood the area beside the streams, creeks, and rivers. What else? Can we can what do you call what? There's somebody's calling me, so I got disturbed. Sorry about that. We can make sure that concrete is lessened if we can create pavement that is absorbent, make streets more sponge-like so that water absorbs into the ground or seeps into the ground. And there's a very long list of things that we can do. And it's a mental exercise. It's a complex problem, and it needs multifaceted solutions. So we have to all work together. We have to brainstorm. We have to propose all things that we can do, even if they're small. If we are all together, then we can make big things happen.
I just have to ask this since I already mentioned our president's fourth sauna earlier. We would like to know your perspective on his statement regarding flood control. Go ahead, Dr. Lagmay.
Of course, that's a very good observation, and it needs something needs to be done about it. And at this point, I would like to add that our our infrastructure, uh, flood control. When we talk about flood control, it's about infrastructure. It's about concrete. It's not supposed to be that way. Flood control means trying to do everything because not everything can be solved by concrete, by dikes. There are nature-based solutions. Those that I have just mentioned a while ago. Some of them that I mentioned were planting of trees because that helps water, the mountains absorb more water, lessen the flow of water into rivers downstream. Development planning, good planning, moving people, settlements, development out of harm's way. This is long term. Even if the water in the river swells, then people are out of harm's way and there's no disaster or damage to talk about. Trying to put more detention basins, specifying areas where these retention and detention basins are most effective, trying to reduce the concrete with more absorbent material, getting water to seep into the ground, not throwing garbage. That was your question. Not
Yes.
throwing garbage because it helps a lot. Not getting our streams to get narrower by reclaiming land along rivers because it reduces the capacity of the flow of water. And if there's reduction in capacity, chances are at the back of that river, there will be flooding that will happen. Of course, there are other things. I just mentioned several now, and yes, so maybe if you allow me to write it down, I'll be able to think better. But as of the moment, those are the solutions that we would like to propose. I'd like to emphasize that also education is very important. I'd like people to realize that the standard of building in flood control structures is only to accommodate the small and medium types or kind of floods. It does not address the big floods because surely it will fail because the design is only for small and moderate types of floods. People should understand that. And I think BPWH understands that. It just needs to be communicated to the people that flood control cannot solve everything. And that's a reality. We have to augment the strategy, not just with concrete, but by the other possible solutions that I've just mentioned.
That already sounds like a final message to our listeners. With that, thank you again, Dr. Lagmay, for gracing our program.
Thank you very much, too. Thank you.
Yes. And we were just joined by Project NOAA Executive Director Dr. Mahar Lagmay. And that ends today's edition of Front and Center. We would like to thank first our production and technical staff who made this program possible. And thank you as well to our station manager, Mr. Ray Sampang. Until the next episode of Front and Center, on behalf of Jerome Toledo, this has been Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.